Formula One returned to Las Vegas in 2023 with massive hype, global spectacle, race cars on the strip. But 2 years in, locals are done. They're calling it a nightmare, a yearly ordeal that's destroying their city. Let me show you exactly how F1 is tearing Las Vegas apart, and why locals can't wait for it to end. First up, let's talk about how F1 came back to Vegas, because the hype was real. November 2023 marked F1's dramatic return after 40 years away. Liberty Media, which owns Formula One, dropped $500 million building a permanent paddock complex at Koval Lane and Harmon Avenue. The goal? Create an annual race that rivals Monaco for glamour. Showcase the Strip to hundreds of millions of viewers worldwide. Make Vegas the sports capital of America. Big dreams, big money. The inaugural race in 2023 delivered on spectacle. Race cars flying past the Bellagio fountains, past all those neon lights. The visuals were insane. Global broadcast coverage reached 350 million viewers. Hotels charged over $2,000 per night at top resorts. Clark County estimated $1.2 billion in economic impact. Want to know what this means for locals? It means city leadership saw dollar signs and stopped caring about everyone else. Because while tourists and executives celebrated, regular people were exhausted. Months of street work, limited access to casinos and landmarks. Their city torn apart for a race that wasn't for them. Moving on to what's happening right now, because F1 isn't just race weekend, it's 4 straight months of construction disruption, every single year. Setup starts in early September, runs through mid-November, then full teardown extends through late December. That's September through December. 4 months where the Strip becomes a construction zone. Here's what's involved: repaving key arteries, Las Vegas Boulevard, Harmon Avenue, Koval Lane, Sands Avenue, installing barriers, grandstands, lighting infrastructure, closing lanes, rerouting traffic, blocking sidewalks and pedestrian bridges. Most of this work happens overnight, midnight to 6 a.m. Crews closing lanes while residents try to sleep. But in critical areas, 24/7 restrictions. Streets just completely shut down for weeks. Now check this out. Residents near the track cite continuous jackhammering and dust, especially around Koval and Flamingo. We're talking weeks of construction noise. Can't sleep, can't open windows because of dust. Air quality complaints everywhere. Several bridges and sidewalks get intermittently closed. Even the Bellagio fountain walkway gets blocked for. Race prep. Tourists fly to Vegas specifically to see those fountains. Can't access them because of F1 barriers. Travel forums and TikTok exploding with disappointed visitors saying, "You can't see anything, just construction and fences." Get this. Hotel guests report 20-minute walks just to cross a single intersection. Unexpected detours everywhere. The Strip experience completely ruined for months before the race even happens. But wait, the real devastation is what's happening to small businesses. And the numbers are brutal. Gas stations and small shops near the paddock reporting sales plunging 80 to 90% during closure periods. One station owner told Fox 5 Vegas his story. Sales fell from 5,000 to 6,000 gallons per day down to 200 gallons. 200! That's a 96% drop. How does any business survive that? Restaurants and bars on Harmon Avenue and Flamingo Road. Sharp revenue declines. Entrances blocked. Foot traffic vanishing. One manager told the Las Vegas Review-Journal, "This destroys business. We're not part of the Strip glamour. We're collateral damage." Here's the thing. These businesses don't get any compensation. The race generates $1.2 billion in economic impact. But that money goes to major resorts and Liberty Media. Small businesses a block away are hemorrhaging cash for 4 months, getting zero benefit from F1, just pure cost and disruption. A small business owner put it perfectly. "Every hour of closure costs me money. The millionaire's race. We sweep up the dust." That's the reality. Billionaires get their spectacle. Regular business owners get destroyed. Now check this out. If you live or work in Vegas during F1 construction, traffic is an absolute nightmare. Residents and workers describe gridlock everywhere at once. Average commute times doubled or tripled. KTNV interviewed workers with brutal stories. They're leaving an hour earlier just to reach jobs in the middle of the track area. 1 hour, twice a day, for 4 straight months. That's 8 extra hours per week sitting in traffic. Time away from family, time not getting paid. Delivery drivers can't make normal routes. Rideshare drivers avoiding the area entirely. Too complicated, not profitable. Tourists trying to walk from one casino to another, finding themselves on massive detours. Can't cross streets because normal crosswalks are blocked. A strip worker told reporters, "I used to love the excitement. Now I just dread the traffic cones." That's the shift. What was supposed to bring excitement and energy has become a source of stress and frustration for everyone who actually lives there. Here's what's really interesting. Let's talk about who benefits versus who pays, because the inequality is staggering. The 2023 inaugural race generated that $1.2 billion in economic impact. Hotels saw record room rates. Over $2,000 per night at top properties. The Liberty Media made a fortune. Major resort operators raked in cash. Global media exposure worth hundreds of millions. But wait, who paid for that? Locals who lost income. Small businesses that saw sales plunge 90%. Workers whose commutes tripled. Residents who couldn't sleep because of construction noise. Tourists who came during setup months and found everything blocked. Many locals argue those numbers don't justify the disruption. Workers on hourly wages lose tips and hours when traffic keeps customers away. Small businesses outside major resorts receive none of the event windfall. Residents point to city resources diverted to F1 infrastructure while potholes and residential roads lag. Critics label it a billionaire's race that regular Nevadans pay for. And they're right. This is privatized profit and socialized cost. The benefits go to the wealthy and powerful. The costs get borne by everyone else. Clark County tries spinning it positively. They say resurfacing improves long-term road quality. True. Streets that get repaved for F1 are in better condition afterward. But here's the thing. Why are we prioritizing the strip for F1 when neighborhoods across the valley have roads falling apart? Why are city resources going to benefit a racing event instead of serving residents? Moving on to environmental concerns. Because F1 isn't just disrupting traffic and business, it's creating serious environmental problems. Noise levels during nightly construction exceed normal residential limits. The city granted temporary waivers letting construction continue. But that doesn't make it less disruptive for people trying to sleep. Weeks of jackhammering through the night. Dust and debris complaints near Flamingo and Koval intersection. Extra cleanup crews deployed. But the problem persists throughout construction. Air quality suffering for months. Get this. The 2023 event generated around 3,000 tons of solid waste. 3,000 tons. Sustainability groups demanding greener practices for 2025. Unclear whether meaningful changes happened. Energy consumption, massive. The paddock building alone reportedly draws tens of megawatts during race week. Lighting and cooling systems running full blast. In a desert city where water and energy are precious resources. For 3 days of racing. Now check this out. The media narrative around F1 has completely flipped. 2023 coverage celebrated the spectacle, the glamour, the excitement. 2025 headlines, construction headaches, business burnout, local anger, local outlets using phrases like nightmare commute and second year same chaos. Social media sentiment analysis from October 2025 shows negative mentions of Vegas F1 outnumber positive mentions 3-1. That's 75% negative sentiment. Terrible. Locals feel alienated. Vegas isn't for us anymore. City leadership prioritizes tourists and billion-dollar events over daily life for residents. Comparison memes circulating online show Monaco looking glamorous versus Las Vegas looking like a construction zone with orange cones everywhere. A tourist from Canada told reporters, "We plan to see the fountains and shop. Everything's blocked off. Felt like a construction tour." That's the perception F1 is creating. Instead of showcasing Vegas at its best, they're showing the world a city torn apart by construction. Here's what's really interesting. During setup months, from September through November, visitor foot traffic along Central Strip corridors dropped 7% year over year. F1 construction actually hurts tourism for 3 months leading up to the race. Some conventions actively avoid the F1 period. Logistics too complicated, don't want blocked streets and limited access. So Vegas loses convention business during those months. Then race weekend hits, luxury bookings spike, high-spending tourists flood in for 3 days, hotels charging insane rates. Then it's over and everything drops below normal during teardown through December. This creates extreme volatility instead of stable demand. For casinos, restaurants, service businesses, planning nightmare. Staff up for crazy race weekend knowing the months before and after will be slow. Hire temporary workers. How do you manage when demand swings wildly? Analysts warn this volatility actually hurts the overall business environment. Steady, predictable demand beats huge spikes followed by crashes, but F1 creates exactly that boom and bust cycle. But wait, let's talk about how locals feel, because the resentment has reached a boiling point. You hear it everywhere, in break rooms, in neighborhood bars, on local forums. People are furious. They watch their city get torn apart for months, watch small businesses struggle, watch their commutes become nightmares, watch tourists get disappointed. All for 3 days that benefit people who don't live there. And through it all, city officials kept saying everything was fine. The economic impact is worth it. The global exposure is priceless. Short-term pain, long-term gain. But locals aren't feeling any gain. Just pain, over and over, every single year. One local put it bluntly, Vegas isn't for us anymore. That sentiment is everywhere. The perception that city leadership sold out residents for corporate profits and tourist spectacles, that regular people don't matter compared to billionaires and their racing event. Moving on to what officials are promising. Because they say they're fixing things. Officials promise streamlined setup for future years. Modular barriers, permanent underground cabling. Goal is to cut prep time, reduce construction window, make the whole process less disruptive. Here's the thing. Locals don't believe it. Public skepticism is extremely high. They've heard improvement promises before, haven't seen meaningful change. They fear the construction cycle will just restart each year regardless of what's promised. Liberty Media is negotiating a multi-year lease extension on the paddock site, signalling intent to stay long-term. So F1 isn't going anywhere. This is the new reality. 4 months of disruption every year, forever. Editorials in the Review Journal and Nevada Independent urge revenue sharing or tax offsets for affected small businesses. Seems reasonable. F1 generates $1.2 billion in impact. Surely some of that could compensate businesses being harmed, but so far, no sign anything like that will happen. Get this. The F1 situation teaches important lessons about mega events and urban planning. Lessons Vegas leadership seems determined to ignore. First, mega events strain mixed-use corridors. The Strip wasn't designed as a street circuit. Constant rebuilds amplify wear and tear, create ongoing disruption. You can't just keep tearing up the same streets every year without consequences. Second, perception equals reality. Even if the event adds billions in media value, months of disruption create lasting resentment. That resentment damages Vegas's brand, makes people less likely to visit, less likely to recommend Vegas to friends. Third, inequitable benefit distribution creates conflict. Major resort operators profit most. Small business ecosystem bears the costs. That's unsustainable. Eventually, small businesses close, workers leave. The foundation that makes Vegas work erodes. Fourth, brand dilution. The Vegas fun escape narrative clashes with visuals of barricades and traffic jams. When tourists see construction zones instead of spectacle, when locals feel alienated, the brand suffers. But Vegas leadership ignores all of this. Because the spreadsheet says F1 generates $1.2 billion in impact. Numbers look good, must be working, except the numbers don't capture worker suffering, business closures, resident anger, or long-term brand damage. So here's the question everyone's asking. Can locals stop F1? Can they push back hard enough to end the event or force real changes? The hard truth? Probably not. Liberty Media has invested $500 million in the paddock. They've negotiated multi-year agreements. City officials are committed to the event. The economic impact numbers, however misleading, give cover to continue. Locals would need massive organised resistance, protests that shut down construction, legal challenges to permits, political pressure on county commissioners, boycotts of properties that support F1. That level of coordination is incredibly difficult. More likely, the disruption continues. Year after year, locals keep suffering, small businesses keep struggling, workers keep losing income, residents keep feeling alienated, until eventually something breaks. Maybe enough people leave, maybe enough businesses close, maybe the costs finally outweigh the benefits even for city leadership. But that breaking point could be years away. And in the meantime, regular people pay the price for a racing event they never asked for and don't benefit from. Now, check this out. Let's make this real. These aren't just statistics. These are people with lives and families and bills. The gas station owner who watched sales plunge 96%, wondering if his business will survive, whether he'll have to lay off employees, whether he can make rent on his commercial space. The restaurant manager dealing with blocked entrances and vanishing foot traffic, trying to keep staff employed during slow months, watching competitors close permanently. The hotel worker leaving an hour earlier for their shift, missing time with kids, exhausted from the extended commute, resentful that their city has become a construction zone, the resident who can't sleep because of overnight construction noise, dealing with dust and air quality problems, feeling like their neighbourhood has been sacrificed for an event that doesn't benefit them. These stories are everywhere in Vegas right now. Every person affected by F1 has their own breaking point, their own final straw, and more locals are reaching it. Ready for this? I think F1 in Vegas is a perfect example of corporate interest trampling regular people. Liberty Media wanted a flashy racing event to make money. City officials wanted bragging rights and economic impact numbers. Resort operators wanted luxury bookings during race weekend. Nobody asked locals if they wanted their city torn apart for 4 months every year. Nobody asked small businesses if they could survive 90% revenue drops. Nobody asked workers if they could handle tripled commutes. Those people don't matter in the decision-making process. And that's the fundamental problem with modern Vegas. Decisions get made by corporations and executives focused on quarterly profits and global branding. Regular people who actually live and work there, they're just collateral damage. Their suffering doesn't show up on spreadsheets, so it doesn't matter. F1 will probably continue. The construction will keep happening. The disruption will persist, because the people making decisions aren't the people bearing costs. And as long as that's true, nothing changes. So here's my question for you. Are you a Vegas local dealing with F1 disruption? Have you lost income or business? Are you fed up with 4 months of construction chaos? Share your story in the comments. Tell us what F1 has cost you personally, whether you think it's worth it, whether you want it to continue or end. Your voices matter. The more locals speak out, the harder it becomes for officials to ignore the problem. And if you're not from Vegas but you care about corporate interests overriding community needs, share this video, raise awareness. Put pressure on Vegas leadership to do better, to consider regular people, not just profit margins. Formula One is destroying Las Vegas. 4 months of construction disruption every year. Small businesses losing 90% of sales. Workers with doubled commutes. Residents who can't sleep. Tourists disappointed by blocked attractions. All for 3 days of racing that generates $1.2 billion for corporations while regular people pay the price. Locals are done. 75% negative sentiment on social media. Business owners calling themselves collateral damage. Workers dreading the traffic cones. Residents feeling like Vegas isn't for them anymore. And city leadership still committed to F1 for the long term, promising improvements that locals don't believe. Prioritizing global spectacle over local suffering. Letting corporations extract profit while communities bear the cost. This is unsustainable. Something will eventually break. The question is how much damage happens before anyone in power cares enough to fix it. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe. We'll keep covering what's happening in Vegas and fighting for the people who actually live there. See you in the next one.